Did I miss anything good?
Only why the planning board didn't insist that Dollar General use another design on this store.
I don't know why they didn't. Because Roy Barron believes everybody should have the right to do whatever they damn well please, anywhere they damn well please it.
Yep.
That sounds about right. Just don't tell anybody they can't vote.
I knew I forgot something tonight.
What?
My hearing aids.
That might
I'm
be
stone deaf in that left ear, so anything they're saying, I can't hear at all.
That might be a good
I
idea.
gotta go like this to hear it.
Well, you might have to move over there then.
That might
All the
be-
way out on the far end.
That might be a good idea, Bruce.
Okay, it is almost 7 o'clock, so we will be out of order.
Out of order or in order?
We're always out of order, but we'll be in order.
Okay.
If you don't believe it, just ask the selectmen.
Ralph, I don't know where Ralph is. He may show up, he may not.
Select people.
We don't have any guests except a bunch of chairs, so we'll ignore them.
There'll be no
We
discussion.
have next the minutes that Laura sent out.
Now, I was just curious, I just had one question. What is a 11 by 13 inch trout?
11 by 13.
Yeah, inch trout.
Is that what,
Get wow.
That's a big one.
130, 140 square inches?
That's how it was written on the invoice.
Okay. It was probably 11, 13.
Dash
Yeah.
13.
Yeah. No sweat, Laura, I'm just.
That's okay.
That's
just
fine.
11 by 13, you know, they were big
Big
trout.
trout.
And they're kind of square.
Boxy.
No,
Yeah,
they-
that's right.
Square.
They were big trouts.
very chunky.
Yes.
We know how the
They're not
fishing
thin
goes.
and-
A lot of meat on them, and they swim really slowly.
Well, after picking on Laura, I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay.
I wasn't here.
So you're abstaining.
I guess.
Okay.
I'm still not here.
Apparently.
What? What?
Right, that's it.
Oh, neither was I.
Okay, financial, we didn't get anything yet from Harry. Although it is early in the month, because I don't think the statements come. They usually come beginning of the second week, I think. Anyway. However, we did get reimbursed our $998 in our dues and workshop line item, so that looking at our budget, we've overexpended our wages. We have 2 months left in our phone, and there's $90 to pay that. The only money we really have left is in supplies and in reference materials. We have 198 in supplies and 100 in reference materials, and 100 in computers and software. And I've ordered some of the little metal, well, they're squares, but they go on the tree diagonal for easement,
Yep.
marking the line, the boundaries of easements.
Oh, nice.
So when I get that bill, that'll come in against supplies and equipment. The only other thing was that at the budget hearings with the selectmen, they didn't have anything to say, and with the budget committee, they didn't have anything to say. So the budget that we approved last month went through. So it appears that's what we'll be getting.
Okay.
We got intents to cut. We got Harry Merrow is cutting 110 of 306 acres. back Ossipee Mountain Road. And that is going to be Greenleaf Products doing the cutting. And let's see, that would be lots 1 and lots 22 and 21. And then another lot 23 he's doing cutting, and lot 19 he's doing cutting. So we've got 3 from the Harry Merrow Family Trust, all with Greenleaf. Any questions on that? Yes, no?
No.
No? Okay. And then we have Northgate Ossipee LLC to cut 35 of 239 acres.
That's our friends, right?
That would be Westward Shores. And that's on a whole series of lots that, actually now, aren't they combined?
Yeah,
merged?
they're all under 2901
Right.
lot number, since they merged.
They say they're all one.
Yeah, 20, all right. 2901. So that whole thing now is considered 2901?
Yes.
So the other files, actually, just as a question, those other files that exist will all get merged into one folder?
We can, but yeah.
Well,
Either that or I make reference that, you know, I put a copy of the lot merger into each of the files, unifying that it's gone to 2901, but
So,
we
I
can
would
merge
just put
them.
one piece of paper and put all the stuff that went with the other lots into the one. And then just have, if somebody was looking for one of the other lots, there's just one
It'll be
piece of
there.
paper referencing it.
Yep.
So all the information, rather than having to pull all the files for all the
Yep.
information. I don't know.
Yep.
That's what would seem to make sense. What do I know? Okay,
is that the only intent cut that we've gotten from Westwood Shores? Because if it is, it's after the fact, right?
No, we got one earlier.
I thought we did too.
Yeah.
What is, what
Not-
was the
not
difference
today.
between the two?
It wasn't, it's not in this batch, it was
Understand.
weeks
Yeah.
ago.
So, what are they cutting in for this right here? On lot 2901? I was just wondering, because if it's what they're already cut up there, then it's kind of shady, right?
well, it was signed on the 26th of October, filed on the 24th.
Yeah.
Oh, so maybe it was done
Yeah,
before.
they started cutting, I think, about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be roughly, this had already
Right about, yeah, right
been
about the
filed
time
with the
this was
selectmen. I
filed.
don't know exact day, but
Okay.
pretty close to it.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten anything from DES. I don't know if it's good or bad. We got a letter from the court, Attorney General's office, and a letter from the court for the patent properties that are being transferred, the environmental conservation easement on those properties. Since the Patent Environmental Trust had gone out of business and no longer existed, the state petitioned the courts to have Ossipee Conservation Commission hold the conservation easement in those properties. And they are a series of properties on Nichols Road and on Sawyer Road. So that's part of what our new signs are going to be for. You're looking somewhat puzzled.
No.
Oh, okay.
Not once you mentioned where they were.
No, they're actually across, on Nichols Road, across from Westwood Shores, on the other side. running in the wetlands there. And then on Sire Road, back towards Garland Pond. Now, seeing as this covers, we've got 1 through 8 and 1 through 6. So we've got 14 lots. Laura, does that mean that for each lot, this is going to go in the folder?
All different numbers.
And the other thing is, can in our Conservation Commission general file have something, a folder on this, so we don't have to go into each file and to keep a record of monitoring them?
Okay.
Are the selectmen aware of this?
Yes. Because when Rick was chair, they were subpoenaed by the court.
Is he aware of the court's, are they aware of the court's decision?
It was pretty much,
Given, yeah.
yeah.
I just didn't want to get accused of doing something sneaky.
No. I mean, this was,
You might anyway.
this was,
Usurp some property from the selectmen.
this was
I hear that one more time.
basically the Attorney General's office, because they handle easements,
Yeah,
and because they're supposed to be permanent.
yeah.
And when the Patent Environmental Trust went out of business, there was nobody to monitor the easements, so they were the ones that brought the whole issue. Rick was subpoenaed. I had gone through and told him about it. Each landowner was notified by the court that this was happening. There is one piece of property that definitely probably have to look at that appears to have some kind of a structure in the area. It's
Does
supposed
the Conservation Commission now own that land, or you just hold the easement?
We hold the easement.
Who owns the land? The town?
people.
itself?
No.
Oh, the separate people.
the individual people.
Ooh. So the town has no involvement in these pieces?
Only to the extent that
Yeah.
the easement is, the environmental conservation easement is obeyed.
Now, the only, I'm just getting sick and tired of hearing that, the Conservation Committee doesn't own that land, the town does.
Well, technically.
No, this is private property,
Okay.
because you can have conservation easements on your private property.
Yes, you can.
You own it, but somebody else has the conservation easement to make sure that it's not violated.
So do we in Ossipee then have 3 different types of conservation land? That which is owned by a private owner, and it's an easement. That which is held by the Conservation Commission, and that's which is owned by the town or the selectmen.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
and property that's owned by another conservation group that we hold the easement.
Oh,
So
okay,
there's
so there's
3.
actually 4 different ones. I
No,
got you.
there's 3.
3?
Personal property.
Right.
With an easement. Conservation owned by a conservation group.
Okay,
With
right,
an
right.
easement. And our property that technically the town does own by state law.
I got you.
And that has an easement.
Right, okay.
Where's mine?
But the town won't own this property because it's all private.
Right.
Yes. Got it.
Very interesting.
Okay, so that's that. Is this on the list? The farm committee?
No,
Did I not put it on there?
it's not on my agenda.
No.
It's with the farm committee.
All right. Well, so
Oh, well,
that's-
I think that was something that was happening before this meeting. I had sent it to you earlier, I think.
All right.
Emailed it to
okay.
you.
Yes, okay. Oh, I went to that.
Yes, November 5th.
Yeah, I went to the farm.
Learn anything?
Yeah, I did, actually. It was an interesting tour. We did a little damp.
No, we used to have, when they had the animals there, and they had all the 4-H pig scrambles. Daughter caught a pig.
Yeah, there was this ongoing bantering back and forth about what the expectation of the farm is. Now that we only have like 2 employees of the whole complex, how are they supposed to do stuff? And so then after we had this tour, which was rather interesting, and you know, we're looking at this manpower issue because you know they use inmates, but they can only use certain inmates. And now that the state has offered or is requiring education courses, you now don't have the inmates, but you need the inmates for the farm to be able to do these certain things.
Right.
And so then one of my questions when I was there was, during this question and answer period, it was like, what is your expectation? Is your expectation that this is a break even? Does it need to make a profit of $1? You know, it's a farm. And a number of farmers that were there and greenhouse guys and whatever, you know, they're all saying, you know, this is farming. You don't make money, you know.
You get federal subsidies.
Well, you break even or whatever.
Yeah.
And several of the commissioners that were there were like squirming. So it'll be interesting because part of their thought.
Commissioners or delegation?
They were both there.
Was that because of the question being asked or because of the answer?
Well, they don't know what the answer is.
Oh.
But one of the things that they've talked about, and it's been in the paper, that they've talked about how they might want to open up some of this land to people who want to start, you know, small,
Right.
you know, restaurant gardens, and not family gardening.
Not like a community farm for
Yeah, not like
families, but
community farm,
for
but-
businesses.
But for businesses.
Yes.
But then it was pointed out to them that I guess UNH in their farm education class, whatever you want to call that, only has 4 students.
Oh,
So
geez.
it's not like, you know, it's not like people are like, oh, let's
Right.
move to New Hampshire
Yeah.
and go into farming.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. They now have my email address and phone number, so I'm sure I'm going to be hearing from them.
Well, it's all well and good, you know, about them not making a profit, as long as they don't go into the hole like they've done previously and cost us money on our taxes.
Well, the thing is that they've just figured out, they think they will actually have good numbers
I wonder what
next
that means.
month.
Yeah.
But those good numbers will be based on, I'm assuming, this calendar year. And this calendar year, they cut out 1 person. So they actually didn't do as much as they have done historically.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have a vegetable plot this year because they didn't have man hours for it.
Yeah.
You know, they did, you know, they have all these blueberry bushes. They have like an acre worth of blueberry bushes. And, you know, they used to, you know, pick those and, you know, the inmates would get them and the nursing home would get them. And so this year they opened it up to other people to pick it.
You pick, yeah.
And somebody was there that actually owns a big blueberry farm. And, you know, they're saying, well, you know, once these plants get into maturity with these number of plants, they could probably, you know, if it was all $4 a peck or, you know, pint, they could probably make $10,000 just on a good year in blueberries. You know, and then it's like, well, you know, what are they going to do about the wood? And, you know, it was like, what an uphill. The way they've cut them at the knee and trying to say, you know, it's like, well, you can't do this, but you need to do this. It's like going, I was amazed that they weren't as frustrated. It'll be interesting.
And they hay?
They had a good year ahead this year.
They hay private property and
Just one farm that's private, the one down the street.
No, they hay up on my road.
Oh, they only mentioned one.
They hay Warren Walker's property.
Oh, is that the one? I don't know, they said it was down the road, so it's down on 171?
It's on Upper Beecham Hill Road.
I don't know where that is.
It's off the top, if you're going towards Moultonville from the county farm.
Yeah.
You go to the top of the hill, the long straight hill,
Mhm.
and then you take a quick dip and there's a road that veers off to the right.
Well, I think that was the one they were talking about.
Alright.
Because they said that
That's down the road.
they say that's a good working agreement with them. Hay, apparently they made money on this year.
Well, and they make money on wood.
Nobody. I thought I heard a door rattle.
Yeah. Nope, you're hearing things.
Mm.
So anyway, it was an interesting tour and I went to
Because,
it.
I mean, they sell all the wood to the state campgrounds.
That was a quick research.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but they
most
sell
of it.
Yeah, but they sell it for like $250 a
Three
third
quarter.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
but
very
they-
cheap.
Yeah, but when they
And
have
then
the
the state
inmates
marks
doing
it up
it,
by
it doesn't.
double.
Yeah, but the inmates, it doesn't cost them a lot to.
Yeah, but they gotta buy the wood, they're not cutting it.
No, they're
on
cutting it.
Not enough there.
Well, they now have started to cut pine because they finally figured out that, especially that the city dwellers don't care what kind of wood it is,
True.
which
For
is
their-
true. I
for
mean,
their-
if they're only having a fire outside, they don't care
Or-
what
yeah,
it is.
either the fire pits or
Right.
the fireplace for looks, not
Right.
heat.
So they didn't have to, and now
Okay.
there's a demand, there's more of a, there, you know, last year or 2 years ago, you know, how wood kind of goes up and down on
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
was.
Yeah,
And they consider what they use as pulp grade.
yeah.
Mhm.
There was a high demand for it, but now there isn't, so, you know, they're kind of like doing both and trying to figure it out. It was just
Yeah,
interesting,
yeah,
because, you know, the inmates aren't allowed to use it, work any of the equipment.
true.
So the splitter with the two guys has to be run by one of them, and you have to, you know, so then you have
Mm.
kind of have somebody in with the inmates, you know, who's running the farm.
Mm.
And so, you know, that takes up both people, you know, if the weather's bad, they have to plow, there's only two guys to keep everything open. You know, they're allowed to, the inmates are allowed to use a push mower and a weed whacker.
Yeah.
And if there's 100 people in the prison right now, say 60 of those people are pre-sentencing, so they're not allowed to do anything.
Right.
Mhm.
And then, so the other 40 are ones that could do something, but some of those guys are either in school or aren't, you know, don't have good behavior or whatever. So they calculated it out. According to McConkey, he says that on average, there's 2 possible inmates per month
Jesus,
to help them.
That's pretty sad.
Jesus, Jesus.
That's pretty
But,
sad.
and also,
And that's
they're-
before the school program.
and they're also like short-term, most of the guys in there are short-term, right?
Yeah, anybody
Yeah.
under a year.
Under a year.
So, I mean, you know, the big thing was always that these inmates are getting workable knowledge that will
Right.
help them on the outside.
Well, apparently the inmates do believe that. It does help them take direction, work as a team, because most of them never had to do that. You know, they have to work together to get some of this stuff done.
Yeah.
So they didn't do that. So then those are the intangibles that, you know, are the people gonna look at those intangibles when they're looking at the whole thing?
So they figure they can't use the people waiting to be sentenced because they might not be sentenced?
There's some rule about it.
That's
Yeah.
ridiculous, isn't it?
There's a rule.
No,
Yeah.
they,
And I
because,
think that they're costing the taxpayers dollars to be held.
There's a rule about
They're
it.
in
Yeah.
jail, right?
And then there's
It isn't like
some-
they're walking
well, the
there-
reason
around.
why
there's-
is because they can't be out on bail.
Right. So
Right.
they can't be out. So they built a cage area with cantina wire up above
Sure.
that is attached to the prison.
Constantina. That's
Oh,
okay.
See, but you could be in awaiting
So-
trial for murder,
so-
for burglary,
right, so the-
serious crimes.
Sure.
Right,
Sure.
so they built this extra cage area
Okay, yeah.
and with the wire up on top.
Yeah.
And what they do with some of those people, it is that they can dump wood into that cage.
I see.
And those people can bag,
Sure.
because they're still not leaving
Sure,
the
sure.
confines of
And they're
this,
still confined.
into this fenced-in
Yeah,
area.
Yep.
See, the reason is it's all the people that can't get out on bail.
Right.
Yeah.
And usually
Right.
they're in there for fairly serious crimes and you don't
Right.
want them out
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
We had 2 inmates that helped build the kiosk at the Ossipee Scenic Overlook, who were guys that were getting out in a month or 2. And yes, there was one deputy guarding them. They could have taken off, but you got to be really dumb because if you take off, at that point, you get another year or two slapped on.
Right.
And if you take off again, you're down in the state pen
Yeah.
for 5 or 10 years.
Well, that's interesting, thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks for the info.
it was interesting. I enjoyed going.
So the bottom line is they're going to continue and try to make
There's
it
2 different committees.
workable.
There's one committee that is only part of the congressional group.
Mhm.
And then there's another committee that is also trying to find a working solution
Yeah.
to it. And I'm not sure, I don't know what the deadline is or what because there was, point taken. There was a man there who was basically saying that of there's 12 counties in New Hampshire, and there's now only 2 counties that still have their farms.
Yeah.
Although Coe's got rid of their farm in 14 or so, and now they're thinking about bringing it back.
Huh.
So, to his viewpoint, there's a message there, and that we should get rid of the farm. There's no value in the farm.
Well,
And
if you
then-
take the southern counties, there isn't firm land down there anyway. It's all suburbia.
Right.
Right. Well, that's what he said. He goes, well, we can make this, there's 900 acres, He goes, we could make this into really nice house lots. You should have heard the whole. But then, you're talking about this. They have a gravity-fed water system, which does I believe it does the court building.
Yeah.
It does the dispatch building and the record
There's
building.
Ossipee Corner.
And it does the nursing home, it does the prison, and it does Ossipee Corner. Now, the 2 guys are in charge of that. They're in charge of all the septic systems in Leachfield. I don't know how much does Ossipee Corners pay for their water? There's 40 houses or something on it.
Yeah, the church pays $400 a year plus the gallon figure, which is probably very little for the church, so it's about $436 because we don't use much.
Yeah, so I mean,
I don't know, the fire department's on it.
so
It's
I mean, I don't know,
But that's income, right?
Yeah, but they were, you have to remember, this is all this, and we had this in the budget committee. This is all this stuff, you put it in the budget and you expend it. And money comes in. Well, the money goes into the general fund.
Oh.
And it
Yes,
doesn't get
dedicated.
charged, it doesn't go back to where
It came from.
where it came from.
Right. I see
And
what
so
you're saying,
they
yeah.
have no way
Yeah.
of being able to figure out which ends up.
That's not right. With the garden proposition for businesses to do gardens, do they lease a plot per year or whatever?
Well, they haven't gone that far.
But if they do that, is that how that would work? Or
I don't know.
A nominal sum?
I don't know how they were gonna do it, because they also had the hoop house there, which
Yeah.
is part of UNH. And, they're allowed to put UNH does studies, like last year, they did a study on different types of peppers.
Right.
And then they have different hoops houses, all different, different locations, and then they do the study on the peppers. And they go back to the farmers and say, okay, this is what we raised in.
Right.
So they get some of those things. 2 years ago, they bought an industrial, I guess, cryovac machine to cryovac the blueberries and other things like that. And so they're saying, well, maybe we could be a food processing center, because we now have this machine, which is paid for, but we don't have anybody to use it now because it's like no thought
No,
Yeah.
you're right.
one
You're
way
right.
or the other.
Nobody has any vision beyond that.
No.
Well, the county commissioners are going one way and have one vision, the delegation is going another way, and they've cut the money.
Right, and then you have this private group. But the delegates, none of those guys are farmers, whereas the commissioners have
Yeah.
some farm background. You know, if you're only gonna live in the city, you're not gonna understand that you don't make money farming,
That's true.
you know? So it'll be interesting to see what's gonna happen. But it was a good tour. But, you know, I was the youngest person there.
But there's only
Best looking too.
two employees at this point.
Right.
I mean,
Because they basically funded the farm for 6 months.
right,
Right.
Yeah.
right, I remember.
So they're
reading
trying to scratch out
as
the
much
full
as they
year.
can. Yeah.
Yeah.
and
But the guy, the main guy, I can't remember his name right now, the main guy that's in charge, he's a young guy. Probably in his 40s.
Yeah, the manager.
Yeah, the manager guy.
Yeah.
He grew up on a dairy farm in Michigan. He was in the military, and he was a I don't know, policeman or whatever you call those guys.
MP, yeah.
Yeah, and he did that for like around 5 years. And then he got married and came here, and he worked in the Concord prison system, and he did something else. And, you know, he's gotten some, because of his previous knowledge, he's gotten some efficiencies
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, instead of like, now when they bail, they used to bail and drop, so they bailed it and dropped it in the field. And I've done that work, and that work,
Miserable.
it stinks. So now they don't drop it in the field, they drop it, they have 3 wagons.
Right.
And that's a 2 prisoner operation.
Right.
Because of course prisoners can't run the baler or the, you know, or the truck.
Right,
So the prisoners get it from the baler and they stack it.
right,
And they change the configuration of what they refer to as the hay barn.
right,
So that you can drive straight through. So what they do is they take the wagon that's full and they drop it in the hay barn, and they have other prisoners there to stack it.
I got you.
So that's another 3 or 4 man operation. So you're talking that when they're bailing,
5.
they need at least 5 people,
6,
and they
yeah.
don't always have 5
Yeah.
people.
Mm.
And then they, you know, chuck it full, but they have demand for this. I mean, they are sold out. There was stuff there, but it's all spoken for.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
every, you know, local guys,
Yep.
and they put their name on a list, and they start, you know, in the spring when everybody needed hay, it was like, okay, I know you ordered 300 bales, but I'm only gonna give you 10 because
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this guy 10, this guy 10, this guy 10. So
Yeah.
you all have some food, and then
Right.
we'll come back and, you know, and they, you know, there's a delivery fee and a non-pickup fee.
And that's priced,
And it's competitively priced.
Yeah, because I do see occasionally, I mean, I have seen occasionally trucks coming out of there with hay on it, so.
Yeah. It's all
down
gone.
the road, that's
I'll be
interesting.
down, that's
And he's
good.
changed his fertilizer method, so they're bringing up more of the fields up. They have 775 acres of hay fields, and they're trying to bring more and more up. So,
Oh, that's interesting.
As long as he's not using phosphate fertilizer.
no,
That's it.
they've changed it to, wood ash is the heavy concentration, because they're trying to get the phosphorus out.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because they're also burning pellets, so they're getting
Yes.
wood
Yeah.
ash
Yeah.
and recycling that, so you don't have to get rid of it,
Right.
All right,
which makes sense.
yeah, it's going in my garden.
Okay, planning board updates. You got any updates for us, Bruce?
We had the additional, what do they call them? Units, accessory dwelling units was brought up, and that was voted down. The state sent us a list of what they want for their RSAs, and from what I can tell, we already matched the RSAs, but somebody decided they wanted to change our zoning to state the exact RSA. In other words, instead of us having separate zoning, just go to the RSA and use it as our zoning, and that got voted down 4-3. And then another one came up that we wanted to do all but the one where they want the second structure per lot.
Detached
And now we've got a
units.
3-3 tie, is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
And now we've got a 3-3 tie, so it didn't carry, so nothing of that carried. So our delightful members, the 2 I won't mention, jumped up and said, well, there are gonna be petition articles put in and you won't like the way they're worded. unless we do something. Well, nothing got done. So I guess we're gonna have petition articles coming in that we won't like the wording of. Doesn't
Your
mean
own
they're-
board's threatening you?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood
No,
that.
no, no, not our own board, only our two, actually now we have three, we have two members that do that all the
Your
time.
vocal members?
Pardon me?
Your vocal members?
Well, one
Yes.
is vocal, the other one's kind of hush.
Well, one's hush now, he
That-
got hush from
yes,
last year.
yes. That's true.
Terrible thing to say, you gotta.
Yeah, well.
So they're bringing the petition or somebody else is?
They said somebody else.
But it's their,
Do it.
representing
They're
their,
the two guys that have been dying to get more than one dwelling unit per lot,
Right.
because they wanted to do it. So the funny thing was, Ski brings up that there's two guys on the board that have a personal interest in it, and he wants to pull, wait a minute, you can't do that! No, I'm getting mad! I'm getting mad!
Sounds just like him, doesn't it?
Is that a direct quote? How did I do
That
it?
sounds pretty good.
Thank you.
I was at that meeting and it sounded
You're
pretty
pissing
good.
me off, and I'm not kidding you, you're pissing me off.
God damn it, you can't do that.
Isn't there also is it a state seminar that's either this Friday or next Monday on the whole issue? I think I heard
Yes.
that
Yeah,
last
that's,
night.
I forget where it was now, yeah, they had that though, I think that.
But there's another one coming up, I think it's Monday, right?
That
That was introduced last night, they
But
were-
the
Yes,
their
Monday.
the state rules, we've already got them all.
Yeah,
We already match all the state rules, we don't have to do a darn thing that I can see. But for some reason, our two joyous people decide we've got to change ours and we've got to make it match the states. We got to put the states in there exactly.
I think it had to do with semantics, if I'm not mistaken. If I recall that conversation, it had to do with the actual language in the RSA versus what's in the town ordinance or
It
whatever.
makes no difference though.
No, I mean, in essence,
As
they.
long as ours is at least as restrictive or more restrictive than the states, it makes no difference.
right.
Right.
It's gotta meet at least the state's minimum.
Ours already, as far as I've read, and I've read them both, ours covers the states. All the
Right.
state is saying you gotta be able to put an apartment in your house or attached to your house. And ours already say you can do that. We already allow duplexes. We already allow all that. But our golden boys want to have two separate buildings
Detached.
per lot.
Yeah,
And wasn't there a
their
discussion?
biggest thing is following up with the 67473
Yeah, the other one. The next- because the
RSA,
state
which is
said-
detached.
the state
They want to
said
be
it
able to
can
put detached dwellings on their properties. The other two, they have to be attached by a common wall.
Right.
Correct, so it's a duplex.
The other two say you have
Duplex,
to do it.
breezeway,
The detached
whatever.
one, you can do it if you want, but the state's not requiring you to have that in your zoning to allow it.
Right.
And Beavis and Butthead wanted to put that in there for sure.
Have you turned off your recorder?
Huh?
That was Bruce Parsons.
I don't want to get caught for plagiarism. Come up with that name.
Oh, that was so good.
I don't want to say any names of who came up with it, Roger Turkile, but
Mm.
there was nothing else that really
So
came
what,
up
they
with
wanna,
interest. Pardon me?
the guys wanna build tiny houses or what?
Force
Uh-huh.
the issue so they can have multi.
It hasn't been approved by our board, let's
Right.
put it that way, until they get a petition article up and it goes before the town and the town votes it in, it's not part of the zoning
That's
ordinances.
right.
If the town votes it in, then it is, even if they get it up.
Well, see, the other thing too, which Steve McConaty's contesting, is that current zoning ordinance has a maximum of 1,000 square feet
Right.
for the dwelling. But the state is saying you can go as low as 750,
Right.
a minimum of 750, but our zoning is saying 1,000.
Yeah, and Steve also mentioned the fact that it identified what
I
that
could've
dwelling
sworn ours
unit
was
has to
600.
have
Right.
as a
Or was that both?
bathroom, whatever,
Yeah,
Kitchen-
you gotta have
kitchenette.
the essential utilities
Right.
capabilities in there, eat, sleep, water, and
Yeah.
toiletries.
Well, the catch is, how do you make two totally separate dwellings on the same lot? Because if you don't
And
have
still
enough
maintain
room,
the
you can't do it.
subdivision.
Well, that's it.
Driveway
Yeah, you still have
ordinances
to
and
meet
stuff.
all of the
Yeah.
setbacks and everything
Does some
else.
houses have to have 200 feet of frontage? Does both houses, have to have, is there gotta be 25-foot side setback from this house and another 25 with this one, so that means there has to be a minimum of 50 feet between them? Or is it only 25?
25. I think it's 25, but I'm not sure.
I know, they did that to me when I wrote the one for the public, for the commercial
Yeah.
ones. It was supposed to be 25 for each one, or
Yeah.
50. And somehow that got dropped when Rick changed it over there, and it became just the one, the 25-foot setback.
Yeah.
I don't know about this one.
Is that 250 feet on all sides or just one side?
Pardon me?
Is it 250 feet
Our
frontage?
zoning says a 1 acre lot, you have to have 200 feet of frontage on a public road to build on.
Right.
And
You're gonna
this
have
lot-
to have 2 septic systems.
You'd have to have two separate everything.
You have to have two separate areas.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you'd have to make it so it is subdividable.
Right, and on a 1 acre lot, things get pretty tight, because if you've also got
You can't
wells
do it.
and things like that, it's almost
You can't do it,
impossible,
you
yeah.
couldn't do it on a 1 acre
I
lot.
don't
That's
You
right.
have a minimum of a 2 acre lot
Yeah,
before you could
three.
even do it, and
Right.
those two people don't want that. So they're arguing against themselves half the time.
That's right, and I think in New Hampshire, there's still a big issue about high-density housing in general, which is a different thing, but that's kind of what they're looking for, is an application of high-density housing requirements or standards, which allows you to have reduced minimum lot sizes, reduced setback, so you can plop 4 houses on an acre and have a common parking area and, a common drive, and, it's like when you do in the large-scale high-density housing.
Isn't that condoing?
No, it's not quite the same.
Or a housing project?
I mean,
kinda?
I've seen that done all over the country where,
States come up with the high density thing, they came up with that about 5-6 years ago.
and that's allowing, what that does is that there's a provision in there that if you have a large acreage and you're doing high density, then you set aside a chunk of
Right.
acreage for open space or green space.
Right.
But you can't really apply that when you're doing, let's say, a 4 acre parcel and you want to drop,
5 houses on.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
That was the big thing, was the dwelling units. After that, there wasn't much going on. The master plan is a work in progress, but not very much in progress. The committee's having trouble getting everybody together to meet. They met once and they've discussed what they're thinking of doing, but the master plan has to be revised virtually totally, because according to them, it's too flowery the way it is.
Oh my God.
We have to put more lists and stuff to make it more informational and less
Oh my
flowery,
Lord.
was one of the comments.
Are we actually gonna use
And it's
it?
missing quite a few things, pardon me?
Yeah, it's missing some sections.
Oh, it's missing quite a few things.
Yeah.
They sound like they're getting a handle on it, and they sound like they're going the right direction, but nothing's been done yet.
Weren't they also gonna ask some of the other boards and committees to help out?
Well, everybody has to contribute, yes, that's.
Well,
standard
they're
procedure.
doing their sections within the master plan.
Right,
Yeah.
right, that's standard procedure. as
So
far
then
as
they're
I
gonna
know.
have to-
Last time we did that too.
Edit all of it so that they're not flowery?
No. I like that term, flowery.
Then there was our budget, which is the same as everybody else's. We put in for what we wanted, and the selectmen decided to cut it.
Really?
No, they didn't.
Well, it's, pardon me?
No, they didn't.
Rick Morgan cut it.
He wanted to, but at the end of the meeting, he said he was
He's
gonna.
leave it up to the committee, but he still cut it. You look on the paperwork, the selectmen's recommended has been cut.
No, we approved it as your submission.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, was that zoning that we approved, or was that planning?
Zoning was approved, but also planning was approved. But I think there's still discussion over the postage and the pro fee that they're
Professional
wanting.
fees, we asked for 5,000, and the selectmen's was 2,000.
No,
2000.
we approved your budget based on your recommendations.
The budget committee
The
did.
budget
Okay.
committee
Yeah.
did based on your recommendations, not the selectmen.
Okay.
Because there was a question on whether or not Rick thought that although he did originally drop it to take out those $3,000 and da-da-da-da-da, he thought that they approved your original budget. And Ellen couldn't find it. She was gonna have to go back to her tapes and this, that, and the other thing. So we as the budget committee approved your original thing. And then we had this long, drawn-out conversation on whether or not you actually needed the $5,000 in there, or if you could just do $1, or if you could do, $1,000. Because if you expend it and then it gets paid, then, we're going back to the general fund.
Goes to the general fund.
Right, it goes to the
Back
general
it.
fund. And the Westwood Shore thing, apparently that was supposed to be at 45, and they've, the guy's billing us at 663 or whatever it is.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, God, you can't, and they go, so then they had to drag in police overtime, which is different, but kind of handled the same way.
Oh, my
And it was,
Lord.
Jesus.
Well, town budget's that way, everything is.
Yeah, well, there's a
Spent
few people
out,
on the budget committee
then it
that
comes
can't
back
read a
into somebody else.
spreadsheet. So,
That's a good place to be on the budget committee.
exactly.
You don't have spreadsheets in this town, it all goes out, it never comes back as far as you're concerned.
And we don't have anything to do on the economic development thing.
That
because
was
we're not
about it
meeting
for-
on, we're meeting on, we've now
Third.
changed our meeting dates to Mondays, the third Mondays of the month. Because I have budget,
Wednesday. Oh.
because I have budget meetings, and my husband John is usually traveling on Wednesdays, so we thought if we moved it to Mondays, we could probably get
So your next meeting's on the 21st?
first.
Okay.
And we're working on our website, we're working on our mission statement and bylaws,
Wow.
a list of activities, history.
Are these outdoor activities?
Yeah. Golf, recreation, that kind of
These aren't
recreational
like,
things.
these are like events where you have to
No.
go through site
No,
plan
no,
review?
no, we're not going through site plan review. No.
I just had to throw it in.
Form where they're not with our chairman.
And then you gotta build a wall.
Yeah.
The chairman's got a,
Our chairman has a vested interest in
Yeah, I
site
would
plan
say,
review,
yeah.
outdoor activities.
Well,
Who's the chairman?
who's it?
Ash.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm gonna be seeing him tomorrow, so I've got something to tell him anyway about that whole issue, but he'll love it.
Ossipee Lake,
Ossipee
natural
Lake,
area,
natural
other than
area.
what you passed out.
Yep, we did, these are the new brochures, and they said that they are in printing and they will be providing more, and if we want more, we can have more, and when the boat ramp is completed, the kiosk will have a little, waterproof pocket for these as well, although I did hear, and I'm fairly certain it's going to occur, this map on a larger scale will be posted as part of the display on the
Yeah, picture on
the kiosk.
Right, okay.
And there was some discussion, I don't know, I haven't talked to, I think Corey's been involved with, what's his name? Garrett, I think it is.
Oh, the state?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Relative to because there's an existing kiosk down there, and I think what I saw before was that there was a photograph of another kiosk that they just put up recently, and it's bigger than this one, so maybe they'll have more room. So, but yeah, we just discussed some of the issues that were relative to the natural area, and of course the Steve, I can't think of his last name. Kessler. He's the enforcement guy that's out in his boat. He they now have 2 cameras down there on Short Sands, which is to the west of Long Sands, and then another one someplace in there, so that these are little, like
Game camera.
Game
yeah,
cameras?
whatever. And the one that was closest to the fence in Short Sands, I think it takes a photograph or takes an image every 15 seconds or something like that. But anyway, he had a whole series of slides showing people walking on the beach, and this is why there's no vegetation there. And you know, what he does is when he's in the area, he goes over there and reminds people that they can't be there. And one of the boats most of them were anchored off, but one of them was pulled right up on shore, and here was the sign right in front of the boat. And I asked him if his camera had high enough resolution to read the registration, and he said that camera does not, but they're thinking about either swapping them, or because the other one does. But he said, generally speaking, everybody is very, you know, willing to listen to him and, you know, heed him. He said he only had one guy that was argumentative, but
I think I saw that.
he sent him on his way. And they talked a little bit about the different infractions, and I think they issued no citations, but there were a bunch of warnings. I think a half a dozen or 6 or 7.
Marine patrol issues?
Yeah, basically people just were, you know, either had their boat up on the shore or were in an area they shouldn't be, and he would write them up a
He's not
citation.
Marine Patrol, he has to do that.
Yeah, if they're arguing with them, I guess they will.
Who writes them up?
The environment, Steve.
That's Steve Kessler.
Kessler, environmental guy.
Yeah. And what I'll do is I just got a copy of the PowerPoint in email, so I'll forward it to Laura so she can distribute it.
Where does this Steve get his authority to issue citations?
I'm not sure. I think he's actually part of forestry or something like that. It's very weird that it's one of the forestry groups is the Marine Patrol. They're under that umbrella.
Yeah, but he's not a Marine Patrol guy. He's a forestry guy.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
He's
But this
like
is his.
He's more like a
Marine
game
Patrol's
warden.
under Department of Safety.
Yeah.
Right.
He's more like a game warden.
Right, exactly. But I think there are 2 of them that are in that organization that do lake patrol.
Conservation.
Conservation Lake Patrol.
Right.
Marine Patrol just does the
Right.
marining thing.
Right.
Although I literally watched a guy, the conservation was on the beach, following him. And the guy gunned it and landed it on the beach. And then he was like, what do you mean I can't put, you know, and then he let his dog out on the beach.
Yep. Oh yeah. So it was interesting. I mean, it was a lot of good information. There was a lot of discussion about.
Hey, there are doofuses every day.
Green Mountain had presented the results of the 3 E. coli samplings, and I think the early one had a higher than normal level, but still within the, I think it was like 150 whatever parts per whatever or whatever, but generally speaking, they felt that it wasn't a problem, even though you might have 200 to 300 boats. That was 3 or 4 days after the 4th of July, or right after the 4th of July weekend when they did one of the samples, and it was.
Selectmen get a copy of that?
They can. I don't know if they did. I don't know if there's not. I don't
The
think
water
there's-
quality?
I don't know if they do.
They
Yeah.
should. They should.
I think it gets.
Yeah, because
boring.
that's a state-funded
Understand,
testing
the
thing.
selectmen are very vociferous, and
Yes.
I wouldn't swim off long sands because it's so contaminated.
Well, and that was the whole reason it was brought up, and then there was some discussion about the actual current flow, and the other thing was they had found that over the last 2 years there were spikes on the Pine River, and that was because they had identified at least one and maybe even more than one, and I don't know how many more than one, that were septic systems that were potentially in failure or close to being in failure, and that's where they were having higher
Pine
counts
River?
on the river.
Yeah,
But I know one of the test sites was right out at the mouth of the Pine,
yeah.
and they think that's why the counts were higher. They weren't from boating activity. And then one of the questions I asked was, has anybody done a lake current flow study between Bear Camp's outflow, mouth of the Bear Camp, and the outflow of the lake into the channel? Because if it swirls around there, which I think it does, it tends to flush that enough to, keep the biology down. But there was an ongoing, somebody else brought up the whole thing about, bathrooms, and there was a lot of discussion about the whole issue of doing a porta potty or a floating toilet, and how much it would cost to build the thing and manage it and, have it pumped out, and, it went nowhere.
Where are they gonna put this bathroom?
Well, they would have to have something floating, and I've seen this done on other lakes, and I've seen it done down in the Caribbean where there's harbors where they have these little barges, and then
Yeah.
once a week it chugs it back into the pier, and a big truck comes and pumps it out, and people pay us a nominal fee to use that toilet, and then somebody, I don't remember who it was in the group. Right. And then somebody else brought up the suggestion that maybe the state starts considering regulations where all new, boats have a porta potty on board of a certain size, and that wouldn't fly. I mean, pontoon boats, you could do it, but some of the other boats, they're not configured to really, it's.
Nobody's gonna use it anyway.
Well, that's it.
16-foot runabout with a 7-foot porta potty.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, they have these little, chemical toilets, and, it's like in the little tiny
But it
RVs
goes
and
into a
stuff.
holding tank that's gotta be pumped out.
Right.
That's why nobody uses it
Right.
in the first place.
Right. But, and then, of course, some of the plants, the rare plants that were located there a couple years ago, they've continued to observe, and some of them are spreading, and that's a good thing. And there was one that's unique just to that site. There was a list of emergency contacts, which will be in that spreadsheet, in that PowerPoint.
Is it possible, I'm thinking over in Maine, where they have the bird nesting, they have the fences, like snow fences up to block off the natural area?
There are fences up on the west side of the where, and apparently people were coming from beyond there, and I guess there's some, some private residents that were coming in there, or people just brought their boats up, but there was no real beach over there, so they must be coming along the lakeshore and then walking into that section of beach, and that was one thing that Steve said, that they'd come around the end of the fence, and it's just a matter of discouraging people, and he said, yeah, they walk right by the sign, and they were the smaller signs, not the bigger ones, but fortunately all the signs have stayed put this year. And the representative of the boating community and several other groups, I think there was nobody there for this last meeting from Totem, but in past meetings they've had representatives from several different groups, including the boating community, and they're all, everybody says that almost everybody they talk to is really tuned in and aware of that circumstance. It's usually somebody that's arrived at Lake Ossipee for the first time with their pontoon boat, and they just go over and pull their boat up on the beach because they think they're entitled to do that, and they have to be reminded. But
There's signs on the beach.
well, that's it. And there was some discussion about putting either an additional sign up just to have their, because I think on short sands there's only 2, and they were talking about maybe a 3rd one or something. And then we discussed a little bit about the fact that the lake host next year will have the information there, and they talked again about possibly being able to fund the little handouts, which are, the little cards. It's the do's and don'ts, but there's also, remind people that you want to read the kiosk, but generally speaking, everybody seemed to be in agreement that the users of the lake in general, but also that southern portion by the natural area, the users are aware of the circumstance and are trying to respect it, and are limiting themselves only to that one section of the beach. So it was good to hear, because people are heeding it. It's just that occasionally, as Steve said, most of the people that he talked to that were either on beach areas that or up on the shore where they weren't supposed to be was their first time there, and he said only 2 of them were really arguing with him about it. But the argument doesn't go very far, because he's a pretty dominant person and he can get in their fences.
They just naturally take care of the problem. Line the beach. Goose lines.
Well, I said just electrify the fence or put a wall up.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of graphics here and in the PowerPoint. But it was a good presentation.
I didn't know.
I was trying to think if there was anything else. Yeah, Steve said he had 6 infractions during and none of them were fines. They were all warnings. From mid-June till mid-July. Those were the times he had to remind people that they didn't belong. And then, of course, they had a shot of an eagle landing on the Short Sands Beach, which was kind of cool. So I'll get a copy of this to you, Laura, so that you can distribute it.
Okay.
but, and matter of fact, I just got an email from, oh, I can't think of her name. Went right out of my head. The dread person. It'll come back to me in a minute. Oh, for Pete's sake. Anyway, they're doing meeting minutes, and we should have them on the 14th. So I will, again, what I'll do is I'll email both of these to you at the same time, this and the meeting minutes. And that way you'll have them to look at. But the meetings are good. There's a lot of information there. A lot of people with some very constructive suggestions and a good amount of discussion and a lot of support, which is nice. So I think that, you know, I think the only thing that really became problematic was the contamination coming out of the Pine River, and I don't know. Somebody did bring up the fact that someone was looking into those septic systems. It was somebody on one of the state agencies that was represented there. I can't remember who it was offhand, but they are looking into it. Oh, what's her name? Sabrina Stanwood, I think it is the woman from Dred who runs the meeting. And then the Natural Heritage Bureau. But just so you know, we had people from the boating community, DES, Lakes Management Protection Program, DOS Marine Patrol, Division of Parks and Dred Division of Parks and Recreation, Dred Forest Protection Bureau, Dred National Heritage Bureau, Effingham, Freedom, Green Mountain Conservation Group, Lake Management Advisory Committee, Long Sands Community, New Hampshire Lakes, Ossipee Lake Association, and the town of Ossipee. And I understand that since I volunteered to be on the committee, they have to get an approval from the selectmen. So at some point, the selectmen will say, yes, I will be their representative on the committee, because that hasn't happened yet from what I understand. But I'm going anyway because I think somebody needs to have a voice from Ossipee on that committee.
Yeah, that's true.
And I haven't rocked any boats with the selectmen yet, so.
It's only a matter of time.
Well, yeah.
Also under old business cleanup, thank you, Ron. Ron and Ron. The only poop I found was behind the sign.
Yep, right directly back to the sign.
Right. Nice. Picked up probably over a 6-month period, a bag and a half of trash.
And that would be stretching them.
You know, I mean,
That's
really,
too bad.
it's
No.
not bad.
Bottles and cans, or?
It's
Yeah.
nothing.
No.
No, I mean,
No, and it wasn't bad at all. I mean, it wasn't, sometimes it's like real gross trash there. This time it wasn't.
no,
Yeah.
it just, there weren't a lot of bottles or cans. They were up closer to the
Yep.
road.
Yeah.
Oyster
Cigarette butts.
Oyster shells.
Yeah, somebody had oyster and corn fest and left their oyster shells and corn husks, which is natural stuff,
Sure.
basically. I just chucked them back over the bank and let
There
them
you
go.
go.
Whatever.
These would be the Ossipee Mountain oysters.
Yes.
There was a trail headed down into the woods, and that's where I threw all the raspberry bushes that I cut.
But no, I
That's
mean,
good.
it wasn't bad. We cleaned up the garden, and Ron did some cutting basically in front of the kiosk, between the kiosk and 16. And the selectmen, they're still diddling on getting a bid out, but it's probably too late this year anyway to pull the stuff. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be next spring. And if they're complaining about getting it pulled, well, they haven't been on the ball, so tough luck. And I guess we haven't heard anything back from the selectmen.
I haven't heard anything.
That was because he had proposed a set fee, and since it was over whatever the town allows.
No,
No.
it's
Conflict of interest.
conflict of interest.
Oh, right. Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. So it has to be publicly bid, so to speak.
Yeah.
I got it.
So throw 'em off the
Perception
board-
is
Throw
the
them
name
off the
for the
board
game.
for a week.
Well, one, town policy is over $500, it has to be put out to bid. And second, state policy is that if you have somebody in the organization that's bidding on the work, or gonna do the work, you have to put it out to bid.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's conflict of interest.
Sure.
Um,
Even if it's under $500?
I believe on conflict of interest is 200.
So, but if we were to turn around and say to Ralph, you do this section here, which is $195, and this, and each one is a separate section, can you, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to keep calling his
You're not a
equipment up
member now,
there.
get over
No,
there,
no.
next month you'll be a member.
But we would
don't
still
start
have to
that.
put it on town policy, we'd still have to put it out to
Yeah.
bid.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we get to wait.
So, I mean, it's not gonna happen now
Has it
anyway,
grown
'cause
up
it's
that
too-
much since, what was it, May when we did it last time?
Yeah, well, it's not too bad.
Because I know there were a lot of big stuff that Ralph pulled out in May,
Yeah,
but,
When he wants to do the whole thing and it would look a lot better.
yeah.
We would.
oh, down to that little access road at the toe of the slope there?
the slope,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Informational, we've got Green Mountain News and Forest Notes, if anybody would like to read them or look at them. They're available. Other business? Any other business?
The Chickatelli property. That I just got a notice that the Dan Hole Pond Association is negotiating for a, what do they call it when they get ready to sell that document, whatever.
They've signed a sales, both parties have signed a sales
Sales
purchase
agreement.
agreement.
Yeah,
And 135?
Yes, 135,000.
Yeah.
we need to somehow carefully, I'm thinking that maybe the Conservation Committee wants to join the Dan Hole Pond Watershed Association and perhaps give some money in dues.
I already am a member.
I'm talking about maybe a donation of like $500. Not a donation, because we can't do that, I don't think.
No.
No.
But we could join and give them a $500 dues payment.
Well, we can do that individually.
No, I'm talking about
Oh,
for the committee.
as the committee? Oh. Oh, I see.
Ron and I walked at the southwestern end where the tornado came through is pretty rough going.
Pretty dense.
Well, because it's got a lot of blackberry, thornberry garbage.
Where the trees blew down, the trash
Right,
grew
right,
up.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
nature
And
hates
it's-
a vacuum.
But you
Yeah,
get up
it's a
to the
fast-growing.
northeastern end, there are logging roads, and along the stream there,
Very nice.
very nice.
Uh,
It also connects, well, you've got Ossipee ag land, big areas on both sides. But on your map, 13 connects through, it's the
That's the state forest.
state forest.
Yes.
Right.
And then that connects to the wildlife corridor going to Duncan Lake.
Yes.
So that you've got, the value of it is that you've got this huge area for animals. A lot of beaver activity,
Yes, there
a
were.
lot of deer
Yeah.
tracks in there.
A lot of bear signs.
Yes, a lot of bear signs.
Seriously? I know there
Yes.
was deer up in there because I,
The reading the blackberries from the,
Oh, of course,
from the
of
Windsor.
course.
Yeah. But a
So
lot of wildlife in that area.
those
Good
two
luck.
parcels that are right alongside the small stream to the north of the site, are those in conservation as well, or?
Which numbers?
13 and, I guess they're both 13 on each side of
13
it.
is.
Is the Pine River State Forest?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But
Right,
the
so-
one behind there, what is it, 36, that's just a privately owned parcel? Or is
Yes,
that,
Yeah.
that's not conservation land?
No.
not now, no.
No.
Although it's not built on it, just open land,
Right.
but it does connect through to the Pine River State Forest.
Yeah,
And then you've got Ossipee Ag in the south and
Right.
north.
right.
How'd they make out with that little Wilder square in the middle there? Wasn't that a house or something
Yeah,
in there?
yeah.
Structure of some kind?
Yeah, he's
Uh,
got
they're gonna buy it and then deal with them.
Well, if they buy the whole thing, all they do is tear it down and say the hell with it.
No, he
No,
owns.
he owns this little section.
Yeah, he owns
Yeah.
an acre now.
He owns an acre
and a
with
half.
a
Right
right
away.
of way to his building.
Huh.
But he says he has all this other right of way stuff.
He has cut all kinds of trails through there that he claims from the original deed were right of ways to a spring. Except the trail he cut goes north and the deed reads east. So
Yeah.
Well, it's close.
it is interesting, Ron, that parcel 20, I guess, with the pond in it. They label it as Snake Pond.
Mhm.
It's Mystery Pond, actually, but that's $345,000 he wants for that piece. I did check into that. The owner is out west somewhere. I want to say Nevada, but I'm not sure.
Oh, that's the one that had the for sale sign up on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That Mystery Pond, the one they label as Snake Pond, a little bit of history. They used to run glass bottom boats,
Oh, yeah, you said that.
In that-
Really?
and people could look at the petrified logs on the bottom.
Hmm.
Were they petrified? Probably not, but you couldn't do anything in them.
Sounded good.
Well, it was a compromise, I think. They wanted 150,000 for the 181 acres, and Danville Pond was offering 120, and they ended up, that is a compromise, 135,000.
I did talk to her at Town Hall on the voting day, and she was quite pleased and wanted to extend her thanks to the Conservation Committee.
It's being named for her father.
Yes, Monroe, right?
Yeah.
So the Dan Hall Pond Group is purchasing that parcel?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Well, there are going to be a lot of expenses, and that's why I'm saying we need to make some sort of a dues payment of something that won't get us in trouble with the selectmen.
Well, are you making that a motion?
I'm not sure how to word it. I could use some expertise from my fellow board members here. Could we get in trouble with personal donations, right?
A membership donation.
That's what I'm thinking. I would like to buy a membership in Dan Hope Pond Trust for $500.
To come from our own conservation checking account.
Correct.
Hmm.
From the rental at Sumner Brook.
There can't be the word donation in there, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think, didn't we get in trouble for donating to Fish and Game? Wasn't that the last thing?
We got reimbursed, so I don't know.
Yeah. But at any rate, yeah, I would like
No,
to make
because
that as a
Elaine
motion.
reimbursed.
Is that
it.
clear enough, Laura?
Say it again.
I would like to make a motion that we take out a membership in the Dan Hope Pond Watershed
Trust.
in the amount of $500.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Further discussion?
That probably won't even cover the surveying, but it ought to help take a little sting out.
And you want this to come out of which account?
Our private.
Our conservation checking account, not town account. The checking account that Harry Merrow writes the checks on, as opposed to Elaine Sherman.
Does anybody in the town know that this is going on now?
What's going on?
That this is under agreement, say?
I don't know as they do. I mean,
It only happened a couple weeks ago, right?
why would anybody know about it?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I mean, they've been trying to sell it.
Yeah. And it's nothing to do with us. Dan Hope Pond bought it, not us.
Yeah.
Mm.
So White Pond is now gonna become Dan Hope Pond, is that?
Just a little bit north.
Yeah, Eastern Dan Hole Pond.
Eastern Dan Hole Pond.
Or southeast.
I'll tell you what, it's a good parcel. Now, I spend a lot of time down there.
Yeah.
and It's like Ron says, you get out of this lower corner where Pine River comes in off Granite Road, and you get out of that lower corner, and this whole upper end, all the way to the state forest, is all adult mature trees, wide open. Easy walking, beautiful spots for trails.
But getting to it is still, you have to go through the thick undergrowth and
No,
from
you
the
get that right away, right off 16, right off Granite Road.
Granite Road, okay.
Yeah.
And that would go down, and just off Granite Road on your left is a little cut that goes down to Pine River.
Oh, I know where you're talking about. Yeah.
And at any rate, that would that would be the spot for a trailhead.
Yeah, because you
My
can,
opinion.
you can walk right in and the trail goes right down in front of Wilder's house.
Exactly.
The logging road, which
Bob will
connects
figure
with
it
the
all
logging roads and the rest of the
Bob will
property.
figure it all out.
Yeah.
He'll get in there with his crew and figure it all out.
That would be a nice thing to see in there, is like you say, some nice walking trails.
There are diverse wildlife in there.
Mm.
And, you know, a person can go in there and he may not see a beaver, but he'll certainly see signs of beavers.
Oh,
Yeah.
they were all along the bank.
That's
You
correct.
can see where they were in and out.
So, and like I say, you couldn't walk 10 feet without stepping in a pile of bear poop. I never seen.
So a
so
lot
much
of,
in
lot
one
of
area.
berries, a lot of berries in there.
Yeah.
I could not
Wow.
believe there's so much in one area.
Well, there were a lot of deer track too.
Yeah.
They were all over the place. Is there a second?
It was
I did, second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Further discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Abstaining, or no, negative? I abstain.
I said aye.
Oh, okay.
He's
It was-
abstaining
it was
because he's
very
on the
silent
general
on
fund
it.
motion.
Yeah, it was a silent one because I didn't hear it.
That's because you're a
I'm a
member.
member too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a member, but he's on the board.
Yeah, I'm a member too.
Oh, yes. That's right.
Okay, other business.
Did you
I
say?
would, yes.
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
Our tree guy,
The forester.
the forester.
Bob Boyd is,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get him for
Okay,
December.
December? Okay, that's
Yes.
what I was gonna ask.
Yes,
You only work 4 hours a week, you know.
yes.
We'll burn through that
And he
then for that week.
doesn't work at night.
Oh, he doesn't?
I don't know.
Probably not.
Kinda hard to see the trees.
But he does seem to be keeping on top of things. Well, you don't need to. I mean, 4 hours a week, you can inspect the cuts. I mean, we've got 3 of them are Harry's and the one at Northgate. I mean, it doesn't take that long to check them out. Any other business? Motion to adjourn.
I move.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ay, ay, ay.
Aye.
Sure it's-